It is such an honor to be here and to be on this stage today. You know, I look at this photo here, and it just inspires me. And when I think of TED Talks, I think about inspiration. So it is my hope that you'll have a visual for yourself that inspires you and puts you in a happy place as we discuss this type of content. So you see this photo here, and it just makes me think of happiness. I remember being a young person and going on different college campuses and thinking, you know what, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that. I want to be on that college campus. I want to be around young people. I want to learn. Academia is so cool. And I think the media caught on to that. When you think about movies like Dead Poets Society, Good Will Hunting, The Great Debaters, all these movies that kind of highlight the coolness of being an academic or a part of the academic experience. But unfortunately, there is a dark side. And the dark side is that, you know, what we do can be taxing. As professors, as students, so much of the work that we do is unseen. We're in this beautiful building, but it had a start and a stop date. There was brick, there was mortar, there was physical labor that went into making this building and this room. But when we think about what we do as academics and as students and as faculty and administrators, it's something you can't really see, but it still weighs on you. So when you think about stress and burnout that we're going to be talking about today, it's something that makes you feel that it's never ending, that you have schedules, grading, exams, quizzes, papers, and it just goes on and on and on. And we want to do well, which is why we're here in an academic experience. So we want to do things more efficiently and effectively as the days go on. Now, I like this photo here because the name of the boat is Houston Express, and I am a Houstonian. And this boat, it's so colorful like life. And when you're a part of life and we're all living the human experience together, there's so many demands on us. And we have a situation where we feel like we have to always be delivering. Now, I can say to you, you know, I stand before you as a professor, but I'm also a wife. I've been married for 20 years. I have 3 teenage children. I am a professor. I am a daughter. I am a friend. And I can tell you every single one of those relationships has expectations on me. And I'm sure that you have that same experience as well. So it was the weight of just wanting to do well and in all of these roles that I have that made me really want to take a deep dive into burnout. So I do have a couple questions for you. Does anyone in this room know someone who is burned out? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. Is there anyone in this room who would say that you are currently burned out? Okay. Well, then we're in the right place then. We're in the right place then. So when we're looking at this, again, it's this feeling of always having to deliver. But when you have to feel that you're always delivering, unfortunately, it can lead to always surrendering. And I do have a therapist that once told me that anything that is always on will fail. So we're going to be talking about how to handle that and manage that in healthy, productive ways. But I do want to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of terms. So I've already used the term burnout. So let's make sure that we define it so we can all be on the same page. Burnout is a psychological syndrome emerging as a prolonged response to chronic interpersonal stressors on the job. So the words that should stick out, chronic. So that means it's ongoing. Stressors. Stressors are things that cause you stress, like a tight deadline, an unreasonable manager, an unreasonable person that you have to work with. This is all perception, okay? This is how you feel. We're not talking about anything that is purely objective here. And so there's 3 components to burnout, and they are exhaustion, depersonalization, and a lack of sense of accomplishment, what I'll describe in a second. But I want to make sure that we have a working definition, and it is the ongoing feeling that today's resources aren't enough to meet tomorrow's demands. So you feel like no matter what you're doing, it's never enough. and you have more and more to do. Your plate just gets full and more full each day. So the 3 dimensions of burnout. The first, emotional exhaustion. Has anyone ever been exhausted before? If you've been emotionally exhausted, what that means is that you've used everything you had to give to get through that day. And when you get home at night, the people that you care about, your partner, your children, your friends, whomever, you feel like you're spent. There's nothing left to give. Depersonalization. That's where an individual is so focused on trying to get through the day once again that they start to inadvertently depersonalize people. It's kind of like if you go to an emergency room because you heard your friend was in a car accident and you heard they hurt their leg, and you talk to the nurse and the nurse says, oh, broken leg is in room 2. So that person has been stripped of their humanity. And then lastly, but not least, is reduced personal accomplishment. And that means that while I'm working and I'm working on these exams and papers and different things like that, I start to be very critical of myself. It's because I'm burned out. Now, how widespread is burnout? You know, the Gallup Workplace Poll did a 3-part study, and they basically found out that, you know, this burnout situation, it's in academia, it's in technology, it's in industry, it's everywhere. And it means that, and they found that 2/3 of full-time workers experience burnout on the job. Now, look at this photo here. When I first started doing research on burnout, it was not codified by the World Health Organization. But now, once this talk is over, if you go and look it up, you can see that it is now codified, and it is a formal term that has been recognized as a diagnosis, burnout. Because before, it could be, oh, you know, that's just all in your mind. And part of what this talk is about is to destigmatize burnout. It is real. It is something real that needs to be addressed. Burnout is something that we need to think about because it can lead to fatigue, high blood pressure. It can make you irritable. It can make you sad. It can also increase sick days and visits to the ER. Now, how many of you all have heard of the term the Great Resignation? Have you heard of that? So that originated, again, I'm a Texan, so I'm a proud Texan, from a professor at Texas A&M University. The Great Resignation is really about people leaving work situations that are no longer meeting the needs of their mental and their physical health. So it's not that people don't want to work, but they want more of a balance. And the Great Resignation is an outcome of that. Now, as a professor, I had to provide a graph, right? So when you look at this, you know, it basically says that stress is a part of life. You know, if we don't have anything tugging on us, pulling at us, you know, we may even be bored. But do you see that word, eustress, that there? That's the good type of stress. That's the stress I felt to put a nice talk together for you all today. It means that I was stretched, but I'm a public speaker. I know the content, but I still felt a level of stress because I want to do a good job. I want to make sure I inform properly. You know what I mean? So that is the U type of stress. That is challenge stress. But imagine if I had to give this talk 8 times in 1 week in 8 different cities. Can you imagine? I'd be flying everywhere, and it could get to the point where I could be distressed. Distress is when something becomes a threat to me, and I become exhausted. I become fatigued. And I don't know, have you ever pushed yourself beyond where your body was telling you to stop and you just kept going? So if you do that long enough, it can take a toll on your body, and that's what we're trying to move away from today. So the question is, can we be more burnout resistance? Can we be more resistant to burnout? Now, there are some situations that I have to say you just have to remove yourself from if it's just burning you out. There's some situations, but that's not always possible. So what can we do to be more burnout resistant? So we have the heart, the mind, the body. I like this picture because they're actually looking at each other. I love when people recognize humanity in other people. People need people. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how old you are. people need other people. Human beings are made for relationships. When you even think about the people who have been incarcerated for whatever reason, what's one of the ways that they punish them? They put them in isolation. So that tells you that human beings need others. I also like the fact that they're looking at one another, because one of the ways that people unfortunately bully one another is by ignoring you. And if you work somewhere where people ignore you when you say things, then that can lead to stress and burnout. So what am I saying here? What I'm saying is that if you're feeling burned out, get around some good people. Get around those colleagues that when you're done talking with them, you get a little pep in your step. Make sure that you're connecting with people and taking some time to decompress. Do something you enjoy. Go to the movies and don't feel guilty about it. Go to that concert and don't feel bad about it. Take a nap. Take care of yourself. Do what you have to do, and do it with relationships. And what can organizations do to help? You know what? They can provide gift cards that incentivize groups doing things together in a healthy, positive way. I like this photo here, and you see that's a Canon camera. I used to take pictures before cell phones and pay lots and lots of money for film. Do y'all remember that? Some of you may. But anyway, I like this because it reminds me to focus. Historically, it was easier to focus because there weren't so many distractions. My dad worked for Arco Chemical. I come from a family of 3, and I remember my dad would come home at 5:30, and he would come right in the house and ask my mom, hey, what needs to be done? What homework do I need to help with? Because it was easier to just come home. There was a clear line between work and home. How many of you all know that line has been blurred? You have your cell phone, you have your iPad, you have your email wherever you go. And so you have to be the one to decide, you know what? This is a no work time for me. From 5 to 7, I'm focusing on my family. You have to do that for yourself. And knowing your values and your priorities is critical. I can tell you that as you continue to do well and pursue excellence, people will have all kinds of ideas for you. But you have to be willing to say no to things that don't align with your values and your principles. And that way, you'll have room to say yes to the things that you care about, like a TED Talk. And so you want to make sure you don't say yes to things that don't align, so that you have room to say yes to things that do align with your values and your principles. So what can we do here? We can remove distractions. We can outsource things. So for example, if you have a yard or if you have a yard or that you need to care for, you can contract out someone to work on that, so that that's not something that's in the back of your mind, if your budget allows. The point is, what you want to do is you want to focus and use your power of no. Get rid of those non-essentials as well. I like this because this is about your health, your body. I remember during COVID-19, and we were all at home. I saw that Amazon truck going up and down the road all day. People buying, coffee makers and shirts and sweaters and painting tools and all that. But you know what? If I don't take care of this vessel that I have, I cannot contact Amazon to get another body. I have to take care of this one vessel, this one body that I have. So what does that mean? I have to focus on staying hydrated. It sounds simple, but as we age, hydration is critically important. I've seen this in the lives of my grandparents. Both of them at some point had ailments associated with dehydration. So just staying hydrated. Nutrition, critically important. And I know as college students that can be a challenge. I remember, the cost and the expense of eating well. And why is that? Why is it more expensive to eat well? That's another issue that we need to address. But the point is that, do what you need to do for your body. I know for me, when I was doing my dissertation at Texas A&M, and I was so stressed, you all. I would go to bed at night and I would grind my teeth, actually, and I would wake up and my jaws would be hurting. And so I said, what can I do to lower the stress? You know what I started to do? Every evening after I have dinner, I go for a walk with my husband or with my children. That simple thing decreased the amount of stress in my body and in my life. That simple thing. Another thing is I try to make sure that I get enough rest at night. This seems simple. How many people in here say I get enough sleep? Raise your hand. It's like 4 hands. And so that means that what we need to do is we need to, again, focus and then make sure that, you know, if we can have, maybe you do some kind of co-op grocery shopping with your friends so that you don't have to spend time doing that and you can get an extra 30 minutes or an hour of sleep. The point is we have to focus on ourselves. And what can organizations do? They can say, you know what, we're going to provide a yoga time. We're going to provide gift cards so that everybody can go do, you know, yoga together, or maybe a painting program together, whatever it is. The bottom line is we have to focus on our health and make sure that we're taking care of this vessel that we have. Now, it's not going to be perfect. So I'm not asking you to go in and start slicing and dicing on everything. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that we can recognize our stress tolerance. And you know when you're starting to get stressed out, right? I know when I am. And then I have to talk to myself. I have to interrogate reality and say, okay, Aneika, what is this that's stressing me out right now? And then I have to go in and make the proper adjustments. It's not going to be perfect, but what we want to do is go towards more balance. Do what you have to do. I'm not saying not to do that, but you want to take care of yourself along the way. Unfortunately, a lot of people use their health to obtain wealth. And then as they get older, they now want to use their wealth to regain their health. But for me, what I want to do is, as I'm pursuing things and my objectives and goals, maintain my health along the way, if that makes sense. And so as we wrap this up, you know, our hearts, our minds, our bodies, we have to make sure that we protect them because it is critically important that we focus on protecting our hearts, our minds, and our bodies, and I'll be rooting for you. And so the title of this was, how do you build a burnout-resistant campus? It's by building burnout-resistant people. Thank you.